Hey, welcome back. So you may be wondering what this pile of parts has to do with anything, but believe it or not, this is another Dio build. Yes, another Dio build. So I had it sitting behind the shed for a really long time. I didn't really have any plans for it. I'd stolen a few bits and bobs off of it to fix other scooters. When my buddy Gene actually called me up and asked if I had a Dio for sale, I immediately thought of this, and I was going to fix it up and make it into a stock runner, and then he sold one of his cars and decided that he wanted to have a Dio. So we are doing a complete build. Nothing too crazy. He wants it just to kind of be like a reliable runaround. So he has all new plastics for it. We have a bunch of just mid-level bits to put into it, and we're gonna build him up a pretty neat little scooter. He's got some wheels picked out for it, and it should look quite sweet when we're done. As you can see, I kind of already torn it apart. I saved you guys the time lapse of that, but it was already mostly in pieces anyway. And the motor is actually in pieces as well, and I'm just about to start building it there now. So we'll jump over to the bench and we'll take a look at some of the things that I'm going to be doing to this and some of the parts that we're going to be using. So this is the build. We got TWH Mini Stroker cylinder. Going to be using one of these CMR Mini Stroker cranks. We got a TWH big valve for Dio. Gonna have to slightly modify the intake boot, but rocking that. And we're running a Polini CP carburetor. So these are the cases. They've been sandblasted and cleaned. I just put the gear set back together just so I can keep grit and grime out of there. Put them in the parts washer, which is just an old dishwasher, and it did some weird stuff. The detergent that I used, or soap or whatever, it almost gave it like an anodized look. It's pretty rad actually. You get like these purpley blue hues with like gold and stuff. It's maybe the camera probably may not pick it up, but it looks super wild. It's almost like it was intentional, but it looks pretty rad. And then we have the Mini Stroker bore. So this one is meant for a Mini Stroker. They also make a 50mm bore that is not for a Mini Stroker. We accidentally ordered this. We were actually going to not run a Mini Stroker crank, but I made a mistake when I gave them the parts list and we got the wrong one. So we are going to be rocking one of these mini stroke cranks that I have floating around. And there's the TWH big valve manifold. So you can get different ones of these rubbers that have different diameters in them. This is like kind of a standard-ish flange, but I'm actually just going to make probably a little spigot adapter that just goes in there, that presses over that adapts it to this. And just running a small carb, mainly because those things are so small that they actually fit really well. I really like those carbs. They're super nice to tune. They're just a really well-built carburetor. I wish they made them slightly bigger. So for the most part, this is just going to be a mostly remove and replace type build. Nothing too crazy. Might quickly put the degree wheel on and just check the port timing in case I can move the cylinder up and down with a base gasket or something to optimize it a little bit. And that's pretty much it. Gene has kind of specified he just wants like a very basic build. So starting off with the base gaskets. We can see what I have to remove. The transfer ports look like they line up pretty good. but the boost port is definitely going to need to be cut back. Not a super big deal. Should be able to do that pretty easily. So I think what I'm going to do is just put the case halves together, lay that line out, and then maybe set these up over on the mill and really just quickly knock out the boost port. Grab some friend Mr. Sharpie. That just gives me a nice reference, and just because, also check it on the base. Sure, there's not like a crazy like overcut or undercut. There is a little bit of overcut, so it could probably, like on the gasket, this probably could make a slightly better gasket than this, but make that as my line, and then I can hand tune it up if I need to after the fact. It's basically at the start of the radius. The transfers could actually go wider too. The gasket kind of overhangs into them. So that may be a possibility. I may end up making a gasket for this first and then laying that on top of there. Well, let's cut the boost. I'll cut the boost port, and we'll worry about the transfers here in a second. I'm already seeing this is going to be a bigger job than I was hoping for, just because of my nerdiness of this stuff. So that's one side done. Now just to repeat to the other side. Probably won't show that just because it's more of the same, but you get the idea. Well, that didn't go as planned. As you can see, I had to build it up with weld. This side is thinner than this side, so when I went to go cut it out, I was like, that looks like it's going to break through, and yeah, it would have. So big old dirty cast weld there, goobered it on real good, did a couple of passes and gouged it in passes and managed to get it okay. And yeah, draw filed it flat. Draw filing is a great technique for this because you're pushing this file over such a large area. It doesn't cut very much except for the high spots, so you can actually kind of find and feel where the high spots are. I have this nice precision 1-2-3 block, and if I put it on there, it is pretty much dead flat. I don't see any light gap whatsoever coming through. So yeah, so now I'm gonna go over there and cut this up, and yeah, I'm not gonna show you because it's basically the same as this side. To paraphrase Bob Ross, one happy little boost port. Well, one happy big boost port. So next up on the old chopping block here, gonna do some porting. Now, again, I'm not gonna spend a ton of time porting it, just at the request of what Gene told me, what he wants from this. I mean, I'm gonna clean up obviously the intake where that double casting flash lip is. I'm gonna widen these out a little bit. I may take some of these sharp edges off on around here. I might slightly radius that in and just clean up the inside a little bit, but I'm not going to be spending a ton of time doing so. But that may also change. Once I get into it, we'll see. I might actually just keep going just for fun. So I think that's about as much shop as I can take for the night, but I did get a pretty big dent in this. I mean, got the cases prepped, had to weld that chunk in so I could put the boost port big enough. Got it ported enough that I'm happy with it. Like I said, I wasn't going to go super crazy with it, but just a little cleanup of all those ridges that are usually right in here from the factory. It's pretty good now. I mean, I can get my finger in there pretty far, so you can't usually get your fingertip in there really. But tomorrow we'll be wash and assembly and put it all together, and maybe just for fun we'll check the timing too, just to see what it is, have it in case I want to play with it in the future. Then at least I'll know where I'm starting at. But that's it for tonight. Until next time, take care.